Alors bonsoir tout le monde,
Good
bienvenue
evening, everyone. Welcome to this regular public meeting of the Council of the City of Dieppe on February the 28th. Welcome, a welcome word, dear colleagues. Let's have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, the wisdom to know the difference. Nothing special, nothing special for an opening word. Welcome to one and all, and the meeting is called to order. Quorum, we have quorum. Everyone is here. No one is absent. A statement, declaration of conflict of interest. Mr. Latang,
Ok, c'est noté.
it's noted. Mr. Latang is declared conflict of interest. So, number six, adoption of the agenda. Do we have a motion? Moved by Councillor Latang, seconded by Councillor, sorry, Turgeon. On the question, no question. All those in favor say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried as presented. Item number seven, presentation, inquiries, and petitions. 7.1, inquiries by council members to the Kodiak Regional RCMP. Monsieur Jolette on the phone. Good evening. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. To give some time for the councillors who would have questions, do you have something for us tonight? Just a few things, just to follow up. We had reported questions and some problems on Champlain around Martin. We will keep keeping an eye on that, and I can assure that there's any complaints, specific complaints, to let us know if you see drivers drive erratically. And the watch that we had in the fall for on finally we have less work right now, and so the team of road safety will come to help us in the weeks to come. So we'll be able to do it all over the place. Something that was fruitful last time. This I want to remind everyone who is driving in the city of Dieppe to be careful, to wear your safety belt, and to leave the cell phone in your pocket while you're driving. That operation is forthcoming in the weeks to come. And the last thing I want to mention is today we are going through a new phase. There's 14 days left for the end of restrictions. For us at the RCMP, we've started with everyone in New-Brunswick, March the 13th, 2019. It's been 2 years, but there's still 2 weeks left. Everyone is bored, is tired. They want to go back to a so-called normal life. And for the next 2 weeks, we have to follow the guidelines. And the last word is once the guidelines are eliminated, there's still vulnerable people who will be uh, asking for help. We have to respect everybody in the community. Especially, that's what I have for comments. Thank you. Inspector Charlotte, any questions from the councillors? Last chance. So it would seem not. Inspector Charlotte, we will wish you a happy evening. See you next time. You too. Good meeting. Thank you very much. 7.2 public hearing, modification of conditions uh, on the zoning bylaws Z 836 BID 7051087 on the Dieppe Boulevard. We'll have a presentation. Monsieur Gerard. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. I will share my screen if I may.
Donc, vous voyez ma diapositive.
You see my slide? Yes, it's okay. Fine. As the mayor mentioned, we have an application for an amendment to the condition on bylaws Z836. We're in a public hearing right now to study the proposed amendment. The plan of the presentation, as usual, for a public hearing. We'll go through the important dates for the important dates, critical dates on the amendments, and we'll look more details what is proposed as far as the project and the amendment to the bylaw. So on January the 24th, the council uh, fixed the dates of the public hearing and also the date to receive the recommendation from the uh, PIN. It was so now we're in public hearing, and the next hearing will be on the 16th of March, where we will present the file to the uh, regional planning commission. So to put you in context, if you refer to the slide that you see where there's a star, it's the property in question. It's a property that is vacant that goes along the Dieppe Boulevard and the West Main Street. What is proposed as far as amendment is concerned, as it is shown on the plan, there are two buildings that are proposed to one on Dieppe Boulevard and two on the main West Street. The building that will go along the Dieppe Boulevard, there will be a commercial components on the main floor. It will be a building, a six-story building, and a building, and on the south that will have a frontage on the west side of Main Street. It will be only residential. It's a multi-family dwelling with also six stories, and this building is proposed to go from 5 to 6 story. That's why there is an amendment to the condition of the bylaw is being requested, and the fact that the proposal at the present time, the condition require that there should be business on the main floor all along the boulevard, but the owner wants to take only a corner of the building to devote it to commercial on the main floor. Just kind of an architectural profile of the building that is proposed along the Dieppe Boulevard. As you can see, it's a building that will have 6 stories. The height is already allowed. It and the bylaw is the building per se. In the back, that is not allowed. So, as I mentioned, the condition to go from 5 to 6 stories is proposed to be amended. There will be parking on the main highway for part of the building, the same thing for the building in the back, and underground parking. Here again, a different view of the building that is along the Dieppe Boulevard. You can see here the corner will be devoted to commercial, and there again, part of the back of the proposed building. The materials that are being proposed here again, it will be, we call it fiber cement. It's materials that are considered as specific materials, but the applicant is asking to amend the requirements in this bylaw so that only the facade along the public highway be subjected to this requirement. So we'll talk about it in the presentation. Here again, in the context, I've put the distances in relation to the localization of the houses that are on Chartersville Road, the corner of each building, and the closest one would be approximately 70 meters. To notice that this portion, this piece of property, is owned by the municipality already, so its own part. There won't be any development proposed within that piece of property that is owned by the municipality. So here you have in front of you the amendment that I propose. In the text, we propose to amend but 15% to go from 5% to 15%. The next that I will present in the next slide, and to give a little bit more flexibility to the owner to play with the area where his building is situated, and also what is being proposed to the uh, different aspect of the building will be added. This is the appendix annex that I was referring to. We are giving a little bit more flexibility to localize the building in question. So the last two amendment here, we talk about to add block B. So if I go back here, this block here, the maximum height was five stories. Now it's proposed to go to 6 stories high. And also, I've noticed there's a small in the presentation that you have received in your package. It was saying 30%, but it's 50%. The 50% becomes a figure that is consistent with the bylaw that exists in the present line. So the amendment of the condition make it such that it would become consistent with the bylaw that exists for the whole area. This completes the public hearing. So here again, it must be noted that we have not received any comments or objections about the project. So the clerk will not be asked to read comments or objections in relation to this proposal. Any questions?
Question de la part des membres du conseil.
Questions from the councillors?
Madame, excusez-moi,
Sorry,
la conseillère Mélissa Boudreau.
Councillor Melissa Boudreau.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Your
Je
Worship.
vais poser à peu près la même question
I will ask the
que j'ai
same
posée
question
quelques semaines passées
that I asked a few weeks ago
concernant les places de stationnement.
about the
Est-ce que
parking
vous savez
space
que ces immeubles-là ont
for
un
these
ratio de
buildings.
combien de places de
We
stationnement
have a
par
ratio of how many parking space per apartment. The ratio of parking space would be over the minimal standard that is required by the zoning bylaw. So more especially in relation to the bylaw that affects the property in question. But uh, after much discussion with the owner, he would feel at ease with the proposal, and he'd be afraid to reduce that ratio for reasons that he can't explain better than I can. Generally speaking, it goes a little bit over the standard, but it's not out of
Merci,
uh, proportion. Uh, Your worship, maybe I can add that the owner proposes underground and on the main floor. So this also has reduced the number of parking on the surface. So that is a positive aspect for the project.
Merci pour
Thank you
cette
for that
overview, Madame.
explanation, Ms. Godbout.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Your
Ma
Worship.
question est au sujet du
My
paragraphe
question has
1.3
to do
avec
with
une
paragraph
modification de
1.3,
5 à
the
15
amendment of
de
5 to
discrétion pour
15%
l'implantation
discretion
de la bâtisse.
for the
En termes
placement
d'impact,
of the
est-ce que
building,
c'est
impact
limité cette
wise.
discrétion-là tant au
I can use that
75 mètres ou
discretion as far as it does not impact
75
75 meters of the house, or could it
la distance
strengthen
entre la
the
bâtisse
distance
et la
between
maison?
the building and the closest house?
Oui, puis le 15 représente combien
And 15% represents how much? I see the percentage,
de la
but when we
bâtisse
say
et le reste
15%
représente
of
combien de
what
mètres?
does it represent as far as meters concerned? It's a good question. I will share my screen. Thank you.
Donc, comme vous pouvez voir
So
ici,
as you can see
que
here,
l'arrêté original avait été
the way
adopté,
the original
les
bylaw
owners
was
pouvaient développer à
adopted,
l'intérieur des blocs.
the
À
owner could
l'intérieur des
develop
blocs,
inside
ce qui
the
arrivait,
blocks. Inside the blocks, what
vous pouvez
happened,
voir
what's
le
happening
bleu
is that you see
l'endroit où
P2,
est-ce que
it's where
le promoteur pourrait
the promoter
développer
could
du terrain.
technically
Puis à l'intérieur de ces blocs,
develop some
à
parking lot,
l'intérieur des
and
blocs,
ABC inside those blocks he could develop a
le
building.
bâtiment n'est pas obligé de
The
prendre
building
tout
doesn't
le
have
bloc
to take
et
the whole
en prendre une
size of
partie
the block, can take
C'est juste
part of it.
qu'à l'heure
It's
actuelle,
only that at the
au niveau
present time, the way it is proposed, the block,
si vous suivez le bloc,
if you
c'est
follow my
en
cursor,
forme
it's
L.
proposed as a L form that will
Et
come
puis
this
le
way,
bâtiment ici
and
va
the
voir encore
building
de
here that
commencer.
is proposed,
Il
uh,
devrait,
it
il
will
va commencer plutôt ici
it will start here and will
ou
end
ici.
rather
Tandis
here.
que
So
le
we
bâtiment,
say that the
à
building
l'heure actuelle, ne pourrait pas
at the
se
present
proche
time
de la ligne de
could
propriété parce
not
que
get
le main
closer to the
access
line because
au
that's where
de l'entrée
is located the
de
main entrance to the
des
site,
qui
to
ont
have
le
access to the
second
site, and also a secondary access that is
qui est
proposed
retenu
in the middle.
en
So
dessus.
if we go back to the site, the plan of the site, there is an access here. This access is primarily to develop, and the secondary access is here. An emergency exit is also very important to consider or accept the project as presented. As far as meters, I don't have the answer per se, but it is to be noted that the title plan that you see in front of you is proposed to be adopted and also to be annexed to the project of the bylaw if the council wants to consider the amendment. And generally speaking, the plan should not be amended in a substantial way. That's why we gave a little bit of flexibility, because a project like this one can have small changes without being considered as substantial amendments.
Merci.
Ça répond à la
Thank you.
question. Je vois pas
Does it
d'autres
answer your question? I
questions.
don't see any
Donc,
other questions. So,
euh, je pense que ça va
well,
automatiquement
automatically
à la prochaine étape.
it
Puis
goes to the next step.
on vous reverra dans
We will see you in a few weeks.
C'est ça. Donc, la prochaine étape, c'est
Yes, next step
que
is
le dossier va être
that the
présenté
file
au
will be
trésor des
presented
consultatif
before
permanent
the advisory planning
l'année dernière,
committee
du mois de mars au
and
mois
the pack,
d'avril,
and then at the end
pour
of
donner
March,
l'échéancier.
if I can put the deadline
Est-ce que vous voyez
back.
l'échéancier?
Do you see the deadline on the screen? No.
non, c'est pas grave, on l'a entendu.
C'est le
We
28
heard it.
mars qui
March
va
the
être
28th,
par le conseil.
C'est ça. Ça
a
nous donne
decision will be made by the
merci.
council. So come back on the 20th
Merci
of
pour
March.
la
Thank you
présentation.
for the presentation.
C'est
Thank
Merci
you.
bien. Prochaine,
Next item,
prochain item, question du public.
question by members of the
Question
public.
du public.
No questions from the public.
Pas ce soir
We
encore.
won't have any
Tard à la
tonight,
fin de la journée.
maybe
Donc, par contre,
later on at the end of the
studio
evening. I
journaliste
see
et
a few students reporters
Le moniteur
from
il
Le
est ici
Moniteur is with us.
tout à l'heure.
So later
Euh,
on,
Item pour l'adoption du procès verbal
adoption of
February
the minutes of the last
14,
meeting held on February the
motion par
14th. Last a
secondé
motion by
par la conseillère
Councillor Gaudet, seconded
sur
by
la question.
Councillor Boudreau on the question.
Aucune question. Alors,
No
ceux qui sont en
question.
faveur de
All those in
de la
favor
résolution qu'on adopte le procès
that we
verbal du
adopt the
comité par un oui,
minutes, say aye.
de l'avis contraire par un non.
Contrary-minded, nay.
Alors, le procès
So
verbal
the
euh,
minutes
excusez-moi, du 14 février est accepté
February the
pour les présentes
14th is
raisons.
accepted as
Maintenant, item
presented.
numéro 10,
Now, item number
motion
10,
mémorandum
motion
de
memorandum
l'administration.
and nomination from the
Nomination,
administration
Monsieur
for our consideration.
Melançon au
Mr.
10.1.
Melanson, 10.1.1.
Monsieur le maire, bonsoir tout le monde.
Your worship, good
Cet
evening,
amendement est
everyone.
venu suite
You
à un
have in
email
front of you following an email that we
de
received
Dieppe,
from
qui est proposé
The MP,
au
Peter
projet
Julian,
C229 qui
Bill
demande une souscription
C229.
individuelle à travers le
That
pays
is, they're
qui
soliciting
interdit
all the cities that
d'avoir
ask the banning of having
symboles haineux et
symbols of hate
alors
and
au
racist.
niveau de produits de
So
consommation
the
vendus,
article
les
item sold,
municipalités d'appliquer cette
municipalities are
mesure
asked to
de loi
support that initiative. So the city of Dieppe
et faire la même
is
chose.
asked to do the same thing.
Dans notre
And
stratégie
it
en matière
goes within our
d'immigration et
strategy
notre vision
on the
de
immigration and our vision of the strategic plan.
considération.
So it's for your consideration.
Merci pour
Thank
la
you
lecture de la
for the
résolution.
reading of the resolution. Ms. Godbout,
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
thank you,
Que la
worship,
Ville de
that the
Dieppe
city of
appuie le
Dieppe
projet de loi
endorses MP
d'initiative
Peter
parlementaire
Julian's private
Peter Julian
members
sur le
bill
projet de loi
C229
C229 intitulé
entitled
Loi sur
Banning
l'élimination des symboles haineux
Symbols
et
of Hate
racistes.
Act. I so
Merci.
move,
J'ai
your
reçu
worship.
la
Moved
question
by
de Godbout.
Councillor Godbout, seconded by Councillor
Brideau
Brideau.
sur la question.
On the question,
Aucune question. Alors,
no
ceux qui sont
question.
en faveur
All
de
those in
l'adoption, s'il vous
favor
plaît, par un oui.
say aye.
De l'avis contraire par un non.
Contrary-minded, nay.
La résolution est adoptée telle que présentée.
Carried as presented.
10.2, Monsieur Melançon.
10.2,
10.2.1, Monsieur Melançon.
10.2,
Comme vous le savez bien, le
10.1.
22, le
As you
22e et
know,
90e anniversaire de la
be
corporation,
on the 22nd,
prend
it's the
naissance au jubilé de
incorporation
l'Héritage
holiday.
l'accès à
On Heritage
Dwaddle
Month, the
était
access to
gratuit
Dwaddle
en
was
temps de
free for
l'Antiquité
those who wanted to
et
visit that
l'histoire de
house.
l'installation
So we took
du bâtiment
advantage of our history
a été construit à Dieppe avec ses
that
propres
was
moyens.
built in Dieppe.
Euh, L'expérience a été très
So the
positive
experience was
et
positive,
les festivités
and festivity
continuer au
wise,
niveau des
we want
fêtes
to continue the
jusqu'en
visit
avril 2022.
until April the 20,
Votre
the 9th,
considération ne peut pas
2022 for your
excéder
consideration.
d'inscription et
The
les
policy
conditions de
registration
circulation. Alors, on
fit.
va voir avec le
We
conseil
want a
municipal
guideline
et
from the
on va
municipal
voir
council, and at that
l'évaluation
time
à nouveau de la
we
situation
will
pour
evaluate
peut-être
once
venir vous
again,
voir, mais pour ce soir, c'est juste
maybe to come back and see you at that
Et
time.
merci pour la lecture de
Thank
la
you for the
résolution.
reading of the resolution, Ms. Boudreau.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Worship.
Que le Conseil
That
autorise
council
une
authorized an
exemption de
exemption to policy
l'article
L-1
2001
2020 entitled
intitulé Tarification
Rental
des
Rates of
installations des
Facilities
espaces municipaux
and
afin d'offrir
municipal spaces in order to
l'entrée à la
offer
Dwaddle
the entrance, free entrance to the
Ville de
Dwaddle
Dieppe.
House until April the 9th, 2022. I so move. Moved by Councillor
Boudreau, appuyé par
Boudreau,
Conseiller
seconded by
Lantang sur la
Councillor
question.
Latang on the question.
Aucune question.
No question.
Alors, ceux qui sont en faveur
All
de
those in
l'adoption du procès
favor say
verbal,
aye.
de l'avis contraire par un non.
Contrary-minded say
La
nay.
résolution est adoptée telle que présentée.
Carried as
Au
presented.
10.3, du côté des opérations,
10.3,
10.3.1, Monsieur Melançon.
operation
ici, je suis convaincu que
10.3.1.
plusieurs personnes le
There
vivent
will be
heureux
several people
au
happy.
regard
The
de la
council
situation.
considers to
Alors,
adopt
suite
this
à un
contract
appel d'offres
following a tender award
déposé
on
à
the
l'encontre de l'école maternelle Mathieu Martin
property behind
ainsi que deux soumissionnaires
Mathieu Martin. We
nous avons
received two
déposé
tenders.
au CEL
Uh,
projet au montant de
uh,
2
Construction
$291
$2,291,000
on
plus
les
the
dossiers
HSC,
des frais de
that,
construction
and also
des œuvres.
the
Alors, cette
transfer
réserve faisant
fees,
partie
and the amount was
de
in
l'investissement
reserve.
prévu
a reserve of $508,000. We will take money from the reserve. It's a recommendation for the project that will see the day finally. For the reading of the resolution, Mrs. Turgeon-Roy,
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
to your worship,
Le conseil a dû
that council award a contract for the construction of an artificial turf field at École Mathieu Martin to Dexter Construction Company at the cost of $2,691,000 plus HST, and authorize that this amount be uh, taken defrayed from account 3-3-70-12-7614 general capital budget artificial surf, and that council authorize a budget transfer in the amount of 508,000 from account number 7-4-20-12-8920 general capital reserve fund to account number 3-70-70-12-7614 general capital budget artificial surface. I so moved by Councillor Turgeon-Roy, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. No question. All those in favor say aye. Contrary minded nay. Carried as presented. That brings us to 10.4. Sorry, 10.3.1, 10.4. Sorry, we just did 10.3. 10.4.1. Back recommendation, Monsieur Nelson, to confirm that Councillor Latang have to leave if he can find the key, the electronic key, that is. Councillor Latang is leaving since he has a conflict of interest. So here you have in front of you a recommendation from the Planning Advisory Committee, a positive recommendation with some modalities. The reading of the resolution will explain and complete. So it's for a project on Champlain Street concerning a storage on Champlain. The reading will be complete and will explain everything. Thank you for the reading of this resolution. Mr. Brideau, your worship, that council accept the recommendation made on February 16, 2022 by the Planning Advisory Committee pertaining to the amendment to the generalized land use map is outlined by bylaws Z9 2017-6 and an amendment to the zoning map as outlined by bylaws Z10 2021-1 in respect to the policies identified under PID 10147820 and 7065211 to allow the development that council further accept that the application be subject to the 59 of the community to the following that the portion of the article by said rezoning application outlined by bylaws Z10 2021 one development including the uh, landscaping as of course conceptual site plan and the architectural design dated November 24, 2021, entitled New Garage Nika Properties. Number two, that no development permit be issued unless a subdivision plan is approved and regulated to address the property and reconfiguration affected by said application. Number three, that only the following a portion affected by the said request, an office and a storage. No other use is allowed. And number four, that all other development be in compliance to the provision of the current zoning bylaw. And five, that nothing stops the owner from applying for variance the Planning Advisory Council, and that the said request be approved pursuant to the Planning Act. that the council proceed with the first and second reading of bylaw 7 Z9 2017 6 and Z10 2021 1. I so move.
Question pour le conseiller
Moved
Brideau
by Councilor Brideau,
sur
seconded by Councilor Gadet.
sur la question.
On the question.
Aucune question. Alors,
No
ceux qui sont en
question.
faveur de la
All
résolution
those in
disent
favor
oui,
say aye.
de l'avis contraire par un non.
That reminded say
La
nay.
résolution est adoptée telle que présentée.
Carried as
Ce
presented.
qui nous amène au
That brings us to 10.4.2,
recommandation du CCI, encore une fois.
recommendation of the PAC. Once
Pour
again,
la lecture de la résolution,
for the reading of the resolution, Mr. Thibodeau. Thank you, Worship. That Council accept the recommendation made on February 16, 2022 by the Planning Advisory Committee pertaining to the amendment to the generalized land map as outlined by bylaws Z9 2021-77 and an amendment zoning map as outlined by bylaws 710-2121 and the portion of the land demand under PID 01014700 and 70652011 in order to allow the family dwelling. That council accept furthermore that this request be subject to 59 of the Planning Act in accordance with the following modalities. One, that for the portion of the land affected by the said rezoning application outlined by bylaws Z 10 2021 2 development including landscaping be carried in general conformity with the site dated November 17, 2021, entitled Conceptual Site Plan, and the conceptual drawings dated November 17, 2021, entitled Conceptual Rendering. Two, that no development plan be allowed unless a plan is to address the property of the reconfiguration affected by the said. Number three, that no development permit be issued unless a noise study is issued by the approval of the planning land development and that city council, and that the measures be implemented by the satisfaction of the planning and development department of the city council through a development agreement. Four, that no development permit be issued until a tour of the church organized by the city of Dieppe staff be uh, understood that the property should owner agrees to provide uh, an agreement with the church on the city of Dieppe will be responsible to install that signs at its expense. Six, that all other developments that conform to the zoning bylaw in effect. And number seven, nothing stops to ask a variance and nothing stops to impose condition and to approve the said requests pursuant to the Planning Act. That the council proceed to first and second reading of the bylaw Z9 2017-7 and Z10 2021-2. I so move, Your Worship.
Proposé par
Moved by
le
Councillor
conseiller Thibodeau
Thibodeau, seconded
et
by
le conseiller Brideau
Councillor Brideau. On the question.
sur la question, Madame Godbout.
Ms. Godbout,
Merci, Monsieur le maire. J'aurais une
Your
question au
Worship,
sujet de la
I have a
discussion au
question
niveau
about
du
the
CCI.
discussion about the
Quand je
PSC.
regarde la documentation
When I look
présentée
at
par le
the
CCI,
documentation that was
dans la
presented to the
proposition,
PAC,
dans notre paquet
I look in that
C50
package on page 60
50C4,
of the package that we
je
receive
peux me donner la situation de fait
in the
qui commence
whereas
le récit.
that
Ce qui
starts
me manque là-dedans, qui a
what
retenu mon
is
attention,
lacking that
on voit
held my
un
attention.
commentaire qui dit
We
pour
see
dans
some
le
type of
projet
comment as we saw
que le
in the
projet
previous
respecte les
project that the
environnements
project respect the
et aussi
general
l'honorabilité.
plan of the
Cet énoncé-là n'est pas
development
cité dans
of
le
the, this is absent
dans
here
l'avis
in the
d'immédiat.
case that we are
J'aimerais un
studying,
peu plus de
and I would like to
clarification
have
sur
more
ce point.
clarification why on that issue.
Monsieur Girard.
Monsieur Girard,
Merci pour la question,
thank you for the
Monsieur
question,
Godbout.
Ms. Gadbu.
Je pense à ce point-ci, c'est pas
I,
nécessairement
at this time, it's not
le fait que le
necessarily
projet
the
dans sa
fact that the
composite
project does not meet the municipal plan,
composantes qui
but
sont
there are some
idéales
components
pour
that are not
réaliser
ideal
le projet en
for the local for the where where it's presented. So it's not exactly as we had mentioned before the adoption of the plan that is in existence. We thought that the residential use should not necessarily be localized inside the institutional zone area. We see the predominant use at commercial and industrial use, but it's probably the reason why we did not specifically mention in the whereas, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the proposal goes against the municipal plan. There's a few things to consider. In our opinion, as staff, we are at ease to recommend the project with the conditions that were proposed by the staff and also the members of the Planning Advisory Committee.
Merci. J'avoue, Monsieur
Thank
Laine, il y a
you.
quelques
I
hésitations
admit
ici,
I
parce
have
que
a
si on
few
regarde vers
reluctance
des
uh,
logements résidentiels aussi
in a
à
residential
l'aéroport,
building
on s'entend
at
que
that
si
close to
jamais
the
c'est
airport.
réglementaire
As a
là-bas,
citizen, I see the
si
comments. I
c'est des
appreciate that
recommandations
the PAC
sonores,
has included the
gouvernement
noise
va
study. It
vérifier
will
si
play a
c'est
role in
merci.
the determination. Thank you for the explanation.
Merci pour
Thank you
l'information et la
for the
précision.
information and the
Donc,
explanation. So
s'il n'y a pas d'autres questions,
there's no further
je
question.
n'en vois pas.
I don't see
Tous
any.
en faveur de la
All
résolution
those in
signifie
favor
par un oui
say aye.
et de l'avis contraire par un non.
Contrary minded nay.
La résolution est adoptée telle que
Carried
présentée.
as presented.
Ça nous amène au
That brings us to 10.5,
10.5. Je vais aller
and I think
demander
McLaughlin
les rappels conseiller
will
Lanthin,
go get Councillor Lotting, please.
qui est au bureau de punition.
He's at the penalty box.
Je sais que le conseiller Lanthin, c'est un joueur de
I
hockey.
know Councillor
S'il est dans la
Lotting
punition,
is a hockey guy. We'll remove him
il est
from
dans
the
la
penalty
glace.
box and bring him back in the lineup.
Alors, au 10.5,
So 10.5,
thème technologie de
information
l'information.
technology. Yes, Your Worship, here you have a proposal of an information system, Ceridian, following a market plan. Internal study was made in order to give evaluation to what is giving. Uh, this is the tool to be able to meet the technology, and at the same time is what was the element that started this project, and additional that the Ceridian uh, will allow us to make a working plan and vacation internal instead of using an outside uh, machine and have a management system. Uh, it's for a contract value of $24,277.50 on a yearly basis. It's a contract set an amount for the implementation of $92,000 for the implementation is for your consideration. Monsieur Dag is here if you have
La
any
lecture de la résolution
additional
a lieu,
question.
Monsieur Lantin.
Monsieur Lantin for the reading. Your worship, that council authorized the municipal signing officers to sign the service agreement between the city of Dieppe and Servian for the implementation of the resource management system pursuant to the attendance management system agreed. That council authorized that the subscription fees related to said agreement estimated at $24,277.57 just be taken 83% from account 1-2-20-20-21-22-44-5 general capital budget, 12% defrayed from account number 2-2-90-21-22-44 water maintenance and software, and 5% defrayed from account number 2-2-35-21-22-44 sewer clearing a budget that council authorized, and the implementation of the fees associated with said estimated at $52,049, $50. Please, that should be different from account number 3-3-20-21-76003, general capital budget, payroll, management that council authorized a budget transfer in the amount of $100,000 from account 7-4-20-12 2022 20 it, account number 3-3-20-21-7603, general capital budget, payroll management. I move and second it. On the question, Miss Godbout,
Merci, Monsieur No. J'ai
Your
quelques
worship.
questions.
I have a few questions.
Pas une qualification, c'est étant
What
nouvelle
needs a
administrative.
clarification?
Pouvez-vous me dire
Can
comment le
you
rationnel
confirm
du
the
calcul
rationale of dividing
le montant qui est attribué à quel
the
budget
amount
semble
that is attributed?
le
Is it
rationnel?
because of the number?
Pouvez-vous
Well,
me
the
l'expliquer?
logic, the
J'apprécie
rationale.
beaucoup.
Can you tell me why
Ce que je me suis
it's
dit, mais je vais
divided?
confirmer. Merci.
Sorry, I didn't hear him.
Oui. Je commence à le
It
comprendre.
is, I'm starting to understand. It's
J'ai
coming.
quelques questions.
I have a
Quelle
few questions.
serait
My first one,
l'approbation qu'on te donnerait aujourd'hui au
the
conseil
approval that we would
pour
give to the
mener un
Israel
budget
for the
compétitif?
financial year,
Je questionne
for the
également
whole year.
la nécessité
I'm
de
questioning the timing
c'est une
of
question
this. We're
de
hiring
personnel. On a beaucoup de gens
a
de
new director
je
for
questionne
human
je
resources. We
questionne
have
aussi le bon moment
problems
d'amener une
with the idea.
question.
Is that a good
Ça fait
time to
longtemps
bring a
que
system because
ça fait
we're
longtemps que
making
je fais
changes?
exactement ça. Dans le fond,
That's exactly the reason.
l'outil dès le premier jour de leur travail.
She
Quelle
can
partie
start using it on the first day of work.
était
My next question,
mentionnelle dans le document
we
comme
mentioned
argent
in the
disponible en
document,
montant annuel pour une activité.
it's a yearly
C'est
amount
rare
that we're talking
qu'on
about.
fait ça
It's
comme ça.
hard to believe
Ça
that
me
we
tente encore de le faire.
do it this way.
Tu comprends, là?
It's funny, I'm happy,
Montant
but
additionnel de
it's an
150 000
additional
par année.
amount of 150,000 on the yearly
Dit
basis.
dans le document qu'on dit
We
on peut
talk in the
changer au fur et à mesure
document
du temps.
over
Combien est-ce
and
que ça nous
above
prend? Quelle sorte combien de temps ça
saving
prend? Qu'est-ce que
time.
ça nous
How
offre?
much
C'est quoi la
time does it
valeur qu'on
take?
offre à notre
It's not
système
the
de
value
formation?
that we have $150,000 that
C'est
over and
c'est la
above.
technologie avec laquelle on
So
fait les
is the
choses, là?
technology
Qu'est-ce que ça peut
with
représenter comme
what we do
domaine?
something, but
Si vous me permettez, je dois
what
donner quelques
could
explications.
represent that as Mr. Dag, who made the analysis to come
L'auteur
forward.
du mémo et de la
He's the
recherche.
creator of the memo and the research. He'll explain it to you.
Bonsoir, merci pour la question.
Good evening.
Ça
Thank
fait
you for the
clarifier
question.
les
Well,
frais
just to
annexes.
clarify,
Non,
the annual
à
uh,
hauteur de 20.
close to 100,000,
Ça, c'est
$24,000.
ça, c'est le montant annuel. C'est basé
That
sur
is the yearly. It's based on the
le frais
number of
d'employés.
employees.
Lui, il est basé
In
sur
fact, it's an estimate based on the number of employees. It's per month. Let's say we
un
have
employé,
100
on va
employees
payer
in
seulement
1 month.
ce
We'll
montant-là.
pay
Quand on a des étudiants,
that
c'est
amount.
sûr
When we have students,
qu'on
of
va
course, we'll pay more.
estimer sur les bases
But the estimated
du
amount
nombre
is
d'étudiants
based on the number of students,
par
the
classe.
number of months.
Sinon,
So it's weighted on
il
the
y a
savings and in
un
time.
projet d'amélioration
That
continue.
is a
Ça, c'est
project
fait
of
les
continuous. I didn't
que ça peut
do the calculation. It comes from that
ils avaient
committee.
estimé
They
les
estimated
loisirs,
the
les
recreational aspect, leisure, and everything is over
ils
$50,000
avaient juste
on a yearly basis, just in time
capter le temps sur papier.
to capture the time on
Il y a
paper.
une gestion des données
Afterwards,
qui doit
there's an administrative data that must enter
ces papiers-là pour
automatically. If you go through the paper for each employee, it represents again maybe a day's work
ensuite
every 2 weeks, and then you have the administrative side on the finance on the pay side. There's still time there. All everything is added. It may clearly be it's just a full-time position, for instance. So here again, it's an estimate, and it derives from that committee. I don't know if that answers your question. Does it?
Mon dernier commentaire était juste,
My
j'étais
last comment
content
was
aussi que vous
I'm
fassiez
happy to
attention
see
au fait que les données soient
that
stockées au Canada. Merci.
you made sure that
question.
software is from Canada. Monsieur Brideau, question?
Non, ça va. C'est en arrière.
No,
OK.
I'm okay. So if there's no further question, all those in favor say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried as presented. Now for the bylaw C34 2022 concerning sidewalk and trail, we'll proceed with the reading of the summary. The Local Governance Act, maybe an explanation before we start. Mr. Sima, what are we talking about?
Oui, merci, Monsieur le maire.
Your worship,
Je vais procéder
tonight we'll
à la
proceed
première lecture de
the
l'article
last two reading of bylaw C34, the the trails that didn't exist in the previous bylaw, and it brings a lot of amendment, refreshment, clarification on the procedures. So,
Il y a des lectures sommaires ensuite de ça.
reading of summary, and then third reading by title only. Thank you for the reading of summary. Monsieur Thibodeau.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Sommaire, loi sur la gouvernance locale,
By
article
a
15.
bylaw of the city of Dieppe concerning street,
Un arrêté
a
exécutif
bylaw of the
pursuant
city
au
of Dieppe
pouvoir délégué
concerning the street and the
en vertu des
field,
pouvoirs
pursuant
conférés
to
par
the
la loi sur la
power
gouvernance locale,
conveyed
RB 2017,
RNB
chapitre 18,
2017, Chapter
propose au
18,
municipal de Dieppe
the Municipal Council of
d'adopter
Dieppe
ce qui suit.
to adopt as follow. One, definition. Two,
Interdiction.
prohibition.
Piéton.
Three, priorities to pedestrian.
Autorisation pour bâtir
Authorization
installer
banners. Five, permit for
6.
work.
Arrêt.
Six,
7.
notice.
Sanction.
Seven,
8.
implementation.
Amende.
Eight,
Et 9.
amendment.
Dérogation.
The
Je
fine
propose
and
un sommaire à lire.
derogation. I so move in summary. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Yantang. On the question. Question, Ms. Godbout.
Merci. C'est une question pour M.
It's a
Simard.
question for Mr.
Pouvez-vous
Sima.
confirmer que l'impact
Can you
de la
confirm that the
rénovation,
impact
c'est de remplacer
is to replace the other one
au complet?
or replace in full?
Il y a aussi des nouvelles dispositions qui sont plus claires par rapport aux avis quand on constate une infraction telle qu'on fait.
When we see an infraction, what do? I mean, that's the explanation.
Article 6.
It's Article
Et s'il y a
6.
des éléments venant
And
de
if there's
l'avis
elements from the former bylaw that are not repeated in this
il y a
one,
un vide sur ces questions-là,
there
il
is
faut
a void on these questions. We have to replace them.
Allusion à
Yes, you're mentioning
texte
the
intégral.
law that was an integral.
Question, ça serait
I
des
have several questions, but
avec la codification
we are checking it out.
d'urgence écologique, etc.
The ecology and everything else. We'll have a proposal before the next time. Thank you. Other question? Not all those in favor, please say aye. Contrary minded, nay. We'll proceed now with the third reading by title only. So everything is legal. Monsieur Thibodeau, please.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Worship.
Arrêté C34.
Bylaw C34 2022 concerning streets, sidewalks, and trails. I so move third reading by title only. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Latang. So on the question, if there's any question, no more question, all those in favor say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Carried in third. The bylaw, the new bylaw C34 is adopted in last and third reading. This brings us to the notice of motion. Did we receive any? No? Information and announcement from the councillors, and this week I think it's Mr. Godet is the first one at the plate. I have nothing to add. Fine. Thank
Madame
you,
Boudreau.
Ms.
Merci,
Boudreau.
Monsieur le maire.
Thank you,
J'ai
Worship.
pas grand-chose à
I don't have
ajouter.
much to bring,
J'aimerais apporter mon
but I would
soutien à
like
la
to bring my
communauté
support
ukrainienne
to the
dans ces temps difficiles pendant
Ukrainian
l'invasion
population
russe de l'Ukraine aussi.
during
Merci bien de
the
souligner
invasion
aussi
from
Councillor
Russia.
Brideau.
Thank you to mention it, Councillor Brideau.
Monsieur le maire,
Thank you, Worship.
Demain, c'est le
Well,
1er mars, c'est
tomorrow is March the
le
1st.
congé de vacances de nos
It's the
jeunes.
month of vacation for our
On va
youth.
profiter
I would like to
des
wish
vacances, on profite
nice
de la neige,
vacation.
la neige
Take advantage.
ensoleillée. Donc,
There's
il
lots of
faut être
snow.
prudent également sur les routes parce que
Be cautious
glace
on the road.
de toutes les couleurs.
The ice,
Donc,
we've seen
bon,
all kinds of ice. Good
initiative
month of
pour
March. And
aux gens de l'Ukraine passent à travers une période
the Ukraine
difficile.
people who are going through tonight were well, we're in peace at the meeting. But these people are living an awful, awful life. That's all, Your Worship.
merci
Thank you,
Monsieur Thibodeau.
Monsieur Thibodeau.
Moi, j'ai absolument rien ce
I
soir.
have absolutely nothing tonight.
Bonne soirée à tout le monde.
Good evening, everyone.
Merci
Thank
Madame
you.
Turgeon-Roy.
Mr. Jean Roy,
Même chose pour moi. Je voulais
same
souhaiter
thing
une
for
bonne
me.
semaine,
I
puis
want to wish a
un bon
good
mois
week
aussi, le mois de mars qui s'en vient.
and a happy March, month
Merci
of
bien
March.
Madame Godbout.
Thank you, Miss Gladbo.
Pas de message, bonne soirée.
No message. Good evening.
Merci
Thank
Monsieur
you.
Lantaigne.
Monsieur Lateng,
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Juste
your worship.
un message
Just one
par
message
rapport
to comment.
j'ai eu l'occasion, comme
I
souvent,
had the
dans nos
opportunity
beaux sentiers à
to
Dieppe
walk in our trails in
avec mon
Dieppe
toutou, avec mon petit chien.
with
Puis
my little dog.
c'est décevant de voir
It's
le nombre
deceiving to
d'excréments de
see
chiens qu'on peut
the
trouver
number
le long des
of
sentiers.
dog
C'est
uh,
comme si il y a certains gens qui pensent que
business.
parce qu'il y a de la neige, parce que c'est l'hiver,
Maybe people think that because there's snow and it's winter, they will
ça sera pas
disappear.
longtemps parce que
If
l'hiver
anything, it will get
arrive.
worse in the spring.
D'ailleurs, la même chose
When it
pour les
undoes,
chiens.
and a nice dog
Euh,
park.
je suis allé là
I went there
fin de semaine passée,
last
encore là.
weekend, and
Je
there
vous
again,
confirme, c'était
it
dégueulasse.
was
C'est pas la
really
responsabilité de
awful.
la ville
It's not the
de
responsibility of the
nettoyer
city to
les
clean
endroits ou les sentiers. C'est une
the dog
responsabilité de
park. It's
tous.
the responsibility of each and every one
Les
of us,
propriétaires
all
de
owners
chiens,
of
s'il vous
dogs.
plaît, prenez le
Please
temps de ramasser
take the time to pick
vos
up
crottes.
uh,
Prenez le temps de ramasser les excréments de vos animaux parce
the
que
excrement
c'est
of your dogs because it's not pleasant. It's not nice to see.
très désagréable.
It's very
Donc, j'inviterais peut-être les gens à
awful.
faire un sondage
I've seen that there is a survey
à
on
cet
Facebook.
effet-là. Puis j'inviterais aussi
To that end, I would
l'administration de la ville
invite the
à faire
management
plus de
of the city
sensibilisation.
to
Mais
do more sensitization awareness, and I would
à chaque
go
fois que je mets des
to
enseignes
the dog
de grande
park,
culture, là, peut-être,
put some signs.
s'il vous
There's a
plaît,
big
gardez vos
fence.
crottes,
Say,
ramassez
please keep
les
clean.
excréments de
Pick
vos
up
animaux. Puis
the excrement of your dogs. And I
clarité,
imagine that
effectivement,
the
il va y
bylaw
avoir
must
des contraventions à cet effet-là.
foresee some fines
Donc, j'aimerais
and
vraiment mettre
even
l'emphase là-dessus. Inviter les
put
gens
it in.
à faire
I
un
wish
sondage.
that we would tell the
Merci beaucoup.
people
Bonne
to
soirée.
do more. Thank you,
Merci
everyone.
bien.
Good evening.
Moi,
Thank
je suis
you.
un peu comme tous les membres du conseil.
Like
Je suis
most
convaincu
members of council,
en partie, on vit un peu
in part, we are
l'horreur qu'on
living
voit sur les
the
médias,
horror that we see in the
ce qui se
media
passe en Ukraine. C'est
to see what is happening in
c'est
Ukraine.
pas quelque chose
It's not
qu'on
something
est habitué dans le monde
to
d'aujourd'hui.
which we are used in today's world. It's
Alors,
unfortunate that we are there again.
souhaitons
Let's
que
hope
les fêtes se
that
refroidissent un peu,
head will cool
particulièrement pendant
down,
l'été,
especially on one
de
side,
façon à ce qu'on
so that
ces pauvres gens
well, these
qui
poor people
on a
in
d'ailleurs
Ukraine,
plusieurs
and
citoyens
we have several
euh,
citizens in the area living here,
anciens citoyens de la région
several
de
citizens
l'Ukraine.
who are from Ukraine and they
Alors,
live
nous les
in the
chérissons
area. I know quite a few here in the so
notre cœur est avec vous,
our
puis
heart is
on
with
souhaite que
you.
ce serait le plus possible
We hope
rapide.
it will settle
Merci
as
et
soon
bonne
as
soirée.
possible. Thank you and good evening, everyone.